When a sliver of cold moonlight in the deep night of ancient Olympus slanted across the pillars of the king of God's chamber, the air was steeped in the faint scent of wild mint and the shimmering essence of golden dust. Yet beneath this magnificent facade, within the burgeoning weight of Zeus's brow, heavy with the burden of the future, a woman with eyes reflecting a profound sense of universal desolation sat in absolute stillness, opening her empty hands. She was not weaving curses for the husband who had betrayed his vows. Instead, within the sanctuary of her mind, sharpened by eons of seclusion, she chewed over philosophical propositions of equilibrium. She was Metis, daughter of Oceanus, the first wife of Zeus, the woman swallowed whole, yet who continued to mend the intricate mesh of wisdom in the deepest reaches of power. This is a chronicle of how restraint erupts into power, and how sacrifice is transmutated into nobility. The genesis of Metis's life held none of the clamor characteristic of the court. Instead, it was a deep blue foundation woven from fluctuating tides and ancient marine laws amidst the leaden mists of the deep sea. As a goddess born with a near-pathological craving for sincerity, she inherited a microcosm that was ruthlessly cold, governed by the strictness of natural order and the complex gambits of prophecy. In choral libraries crimsoned by the glow of starlight, she learned to use her gaze to perceive the structures of fate lurking behind every vanishing point. She rejected shallow play upon the ocean's surface, turning instead to the embrace of scrolls imbued with mathematical beauty, realms capable of measuring the true breadth of all things. This relentless pursuit of rational truth became the only armor that would guard her reality in a world of chaos. If her early years of self-cultivation were the tempering of her will, then her stage of assisting the young fugitive, Zeus, in reclaiming power was the practical crucible that pushed Metis's aesthetics of strategy to its absolute zenith. She overthrew the prevailing divine fashions of blind force, resolutely transforming the emetic that forced the Titans to disgorge their siblings into a civilizational opportunity. She sought to replace endless bloodletting with long-term intellectual guidance. Through this mode of counsel, she forged power into an intellectual long march played out in the theater of cognition. In those moments, Metis was the most sober and solitary artisan of the entire Mediterranean, like a marble bell tower, solitary and soaring, yet indestructible. The summit of power in the eyes of the wise is often manifested as the penetration of truth. Metis gradually realized that when she eventually became the first consort of the king of gods, she had obtained not just stability, but a nihility that saw through the rise and fall of all things. She foresaw that she would bear a son mightier than Zeus, and she perceived the murderous intent in her husband's eyes, born of terror. This transition, returning from queen to watcher, was fraught with intellectual struggle, yet it endowed her with a cold, almost translucent peace. She remarked in her final manuscript, "I once believed I was building a home. Now I find I am merely searching for a point of convergence within the scarred fissures of memory, where the soul no longer falls." This expansive clarity became her hardest armor in her final hours. The final visible season of Metis was spent in a state of profound solemnity and a silence illuminated by the radiance of a sage. By then, her soul had become remarkably weightless from years of melancholy and calculation. Her once heavy gilded robe now hung loosely upon her slender frame. In her final moments before being swallowed, she requested Zeus lead her to the window, to look one last time at the grey mist drifting over the Mediterranean, a mist like the base layer of an eternal painting. She closed her eyes, tracing a final arc of completion across her chest with hands that had held 10,000 scepters and turned 10,000 scrolls. The evening breeze carried away the final sigh of this great hermit. She left behind no massive territorial conquests, only the scorched benevolent wisdom that still glows after 2,000 years, the most substantial fragment of a dream she bequeathed to the world. Even today, millennia after her departure, the name Metis remains the sole sanctuary for many insomniac seekers in the deep of night. Gazing at the portrait of Athena in modern galleries, one can still feel a mother in the darkness of ancient nights whispering to the stars. What she left behind was not a towering monument of triumph, but a spiritual template of self-restraint and civilizational vigil. In absolute shadow, she maintained absolute sobriety. Amidst absolute temptation, she held onto absolute logic. Beneath the ruins of the mind sea, worn smooth by history, she maintains that posture of leaning her head to listen, as if still soothing this increasingly restless and anxious world. Her life was an intellectual long march seeking sacred rhythms amidst the chaotic dust of the world. Metis's story thus draws to a slow close amidst the fading tides of thought. She was never an opportunist who bartered her essence for fame. She was merely a weary soul who steadfastly refused to compromise with mediocrity. Inner tranquility is your only true and eternal refuge. Just as she did during the coldest winter nights of Olympus, guarding a flickering candle and searching for a fulcrum of existence through the void of thought. Please believe that in every person's life, there is a labyrinth of thought of their own, a private space for dialogue with the self that requires no outward explanation. Tonight's story is over. May Metis's serenity and vastness become the softest feather in your dreams, carrying you to the farthest, most tranquil shore of the soul. Good night, and may sweet dreams be with you.